Oh, 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 oh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ninja Christmas at the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, the Tarzan boy himself. Big round of applause for Mr. Sejan Sarowick.
Was that supposed to be Bossy? Is that what that was supposed to be?
I don't know what it. No, Bossy isn't the singer. No, Bossy is no. Jimmy McShane was the singer. He's the one who passed away. Bossy was the producer. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, according to what I'm reading here about Jimmy McShane, I closed the webpage. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Say Report. It's Christmas. Thank you so much for downloading and listening to this on the Christmas that it was released. Sejan, I cannot believe it's been 2 years since we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. I can't believe it.
No, it's been a hot minute, man.
Like, it feels like that Christmas was yesterday.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, what does time even matter when we're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? A movie that at one time was subtitled on the DVD, Turtles in Time, despite the fact that that is not the title.
Yeah, so that's probably the first thing that we got to talk about is what the fucking movie did we watch today? Because, so I grew up assuming that that was the title of this movie because of the arcade game, because the tagline on the original poster, right? Isn't the tagline on the poster like the turtles are back in time or have gone back in time? Or like
gosh.
The turtles have gone back to the future or something?
I honestly could not tell you.
The turtles are back, ... in time.
And that's from the adaptation, too.
It also has one of my favorite bits on this poster as well. Another running thing that's on a few different versions of the poster for this, including like foreign nation posters of this movie. For some reason, one of the big jokes that they wanted to put on all of them is that the turtles are lost without a map, without a clue, without pizza.
Well, it's
every freaking poster was like, they've gone so far back they can't even have pizza. And I'm just like, cheese and sauce on bread is something that was invented thousands of years ago.
When was pizza invented? The history of pizza. Modern pizza evolved from similar flatbread dishes in Naples, Italy in the 18th or early 19th century, but the word pizza was first documented in 997 AD. So
but the ways it
they're in 1603
all of this is phenomenal
Japan.
Information. But the thing that really kind of gets you is like there's a moment in this movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, where they have gone back in time and man, they got to make their pizza joke. So Mikey, it's Mikey, right?
It's
that introduces the idea of pizza.
You just got to make sure you keep your deliveries under 30 minutes, man. No one's going to pay full price for late pizza. He doesn't say that part, but he should have.
But there's this moment where like he shows this guy this amazing idea of just putting toppings on top of bread. And it is so foreign to the supposed chef of this village that he burns the pizza. It really is like I love pizza and it was an amazing culinary invention that it changed shit on bread. I will give it that. But it also, and maybe this is just hindsight, but it doesn't feel like it's that large of a leap that if somebody showed you how to make it, you'd be completely lost. Again, as a chef.
Well, and then the other fact of it is he burns that pizza to like a crisp. It is charred. It is so dark that he's able to throw it as a frisbee, proving that in the third movie you got to go back in time and you got to invent a frisbee. Yeah, that moment is really strange. And in the comic adaptation, the pizza looks delicious, and he takes the bite, and he's like, nah, I guess Frisbees are good, too. And it's like, based on the way that has been drawn and colored and inked, that pizza looks delicious.
Right, but at least then maybe they're making
flat.
a joke about how like, oh, it's just not the same because, you know, it's not processed chemical filled like meat slices on a fucking piece of dough that's been sitting in the fridge for 3 weeks that he gets in New York, right? Like I can see them kind of make a joke of, oh, this guy can make good pizza, but he can't make pizza for Mikey. Like I would even
That would
accept
be an
that
even
bit.
better joke. Yeah, like
I think that we're going to find, and this is going to be the only time I'm going to invoke this whole episode, but I do think we're going to find that a lot of my issues with this movie are pretty similar to the same issues I had with Surf Ninjas.
well, that's not
Because
surprising considering we're looking at 1993's Ninja's Offering for 7 and 6-year-old Devin and Sejan respectively, and why they worked back then, but why they don't necessarily work now.
Yeah, there is a movie in here that is that is totally workable. Like there is a totally viable film somewhere underneath the rest of this movie. But the movie gets in the way of itself. I will say that much more than what I felt about Surf Ninjas, where I feel like it really fell on its face in a lot of places, this movie still works for me. And like so works for me. But I also completely understand why there's a large sect of both fans and, you know, people that are not so into the Turtles that don't have time for this film. But I adore this movie.
Okay.
And I loved it as I watched it today for the show, and like we'll go back and watch it again. Like I have no problem with Turtles in Time. Like this is a fine fucking film for Sejan, right? And I think there's a reason why this lands for me just fine in Surf Ninjas that I did also go back to, by the way, but not nearly as with the loving embrace that I will with this one. But the way that one kind of just fell so flat because of how poorly made and how many unexplainable decisions were made in the making of that film. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, like whatever you want to call it, like this one works for me despite the flaws.
In honor of the inexplicably English white villain in this film, Walker, I'm going to pull the sticking plaster right off and say this is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adaptation. And that is a crazy thing to say because I am looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first film, the VHS I owned back when I was 4 years old, and it came to VHS, and my parents got it because of how cheap it was when historically VHS were like $60 to $80, but they used family home video and they were able to release it for like $20, so everybody got that movie. I still don't understand it. I look at that, and I love that movie. But in terms of adaptations of the comics to the screen, that film takes a lot of liberties. And that's saying something. But switching Leonardo and Raphael for the foot fight, for being passed out while they're at the farmhouse, for all those things, is not too big a leap to understand why partners in crime thought that Raphael was the leader of the crew transformed from the Norm by the nuclear goo. And I swear that's the only time I'm going to invoke the song part of it. But I do have tales of the soundtrack specifically with this movie that will happen later on in the episode. But in terms of an adaptation of a story from the comics, this one really kind of nails it. Does it get rid of the time stress and the time demon? It does. There's no lizard that was mutated by evil forces to become their like things, as in Mirage Volume 1, 46 and 47 masks. However, all of those characters and the big story of them helping this village that is under attack by the warring ruler of the land, that's all there. And honestly, grounding it in humanity is one of those unfortunate things that like we see with the MCU, where we don't want things to get too crazy in the beginning. And now that things are getting cosmic and, you know, quantum realmy, people are having a difficult time wrapping their heads around it. Say what you will about the 2000 X-Men film. They're going to wear leather instead of garish yellow spandex. They stuck to that, and that's what people enjoyed about them. The MCU is trying to expand itself to the wider world of Marvel Comics. And I think that's where some people are having difficulty going along for the ride. So if we look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I have historically said that the 1990s Turtle film is responsible for all of the comic book adaptations that I'm going to say plagued the 90s, but I don't mean it in a necessarily negative way. It's just that, like, you think of a plague of locusts, it evokes imagery. We were plagued by comic book adaptations in the 90s. So far that, like, Chasing Amy is kind of a satire about how every comic was getting TV shows and movies. So, like, it was a big enough thing that, like, people in the know knew. So this film, sticking as closely as it can to being grounded in reality, while having a magical Japanese egg timer swapping people through time as the central driving force of the plot.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
They do a really, really good job adapting what those early Turtle comics were like. The first one adapts them very well, but also makes some changes because, honestly, to me, it feels like it's because Steve Barron thought Raphael was the most interesting character, so he made him the central focus of the first movie. The second movie is a killer adaptation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, which is why it feels like a wholly unique and distinct universe from the first film, despite it starting maybe 24 hours after the final events of the first movie.
Right, yeah, like, we talked about that in our episode, that it is essentially the next day.
It is the next day, but April looks different, her apartment looks different, and Casey is nowhere to be seen.
Until this movie, in which we see a lot of him.
Yeah, Elias Koteas, it's starring Elias Koteas, and he plays a double role. And honestly, this is why he goes on to be Alvin eventually in Chicago PD. And all of the numerous at Combat Hospital, all the other roles. I mean, I loved him because of my father. I loved him from Some Kind of Wonderful, where he plays the bully that inexplicably becomes Eric, I can't think of the guy's name, the masked guy, Eric Stoltz's friend, because they're both in detention. There's a picture of my girlfriend without skin. Oh, cool. Like, but honestly, he almost feels underutilized in this film. Like, really,
that's insane to me. That is an insane statement you said to me, but keep going. We will get to me in a second. I need you to finish your thought.
But that's the thing. Well, I say that because we're all excited that Casey Jones comes back. To quote Dale, who watched this film for the first time on Sunday, I bet the theater lost their fucking minds when he showed up. And yes, but then when he's Wit in the past, he's not Casey Jones.
No, and there's not even like a weird moment of like maybe he's like a long lost relative or any of that bullshit. He's just straight up just another character in this movie, and it feels like they felt like they owed him more screen time. They were like, man, we got to get Coates on screen more. Like, what are we gonna do? Well, there's this whole other role that we could put him in. The two never meet. It doesn't really affect anything if he plays the same. Let's just do that. Like, there's no reason for him to be playing this second role. You know, like it is not that. Like, it becomes a weird conversation about trying to assign like meaning behind everything, right? And like, I think that you'd be forgiven if you feel like sometimes we go digging really deep to assign meaning to things that were probably decisions made by a studio for financial reasons or whatever, blah blah blah. But it's because it's on us as an audience to try and figure out what we're supposed to do with the information once it's in our hands, right? You got to do something with it. You can't just ignore shit like, hey, that's the same actor playing Casey Jones. Your brain then has to go, okay, why? What is this? And so you're just expecting the whole time for there to be some joke about like him picking a stick up at some point in the past and suddenly realizing he's really good with it or some shit like,
there's
right?
A moment where he
invents hockey.
There's a moment where he has a spear and it breaks. And it's like bent to look like a hockey stick. And I'm like, this is going to be it, right? Like, this has to be that reference to him fighting better with the bent spear because it kind of resembles a hockey stick. Nope, that doesn't happen.
Or even it feels like they kind of want to go, not necessarily with him and like the whole like vigilante side of him, but his relationship with April. And they kind of lean into this idea that she gets very into wit, and there's comes this conversation of just like, is there a joke about it, like him being a great grandfather or something, or like, or is there supposed to be something about how, or even her just acknowledging, man, I just fall for the same guy everywhere, don't I? Like something like that, and it never comes, it just never comes, and that is it. That is the main issue I have with this movie. Is there is so much here where you see a thing and you think, oh, is this going to be this? Is this going to be that? Like all of the fun of going into a third movie in a trilogy, right? And like a silly one at that. Like you know that you're going in for a goofy time. Being able to pick up on that shit and either the joy of being proven wrong, but in the best ways, or being proven right, and that always feels good, right? Like, but you never get any of that catharsis. All of the stuff that this movie does to be like, 2 seconds later they go in a completely different direction. So it's like that weird friend that's just like you get it, and you're just like, no man, I don't get it. I'm sorry.
I mean, we have the same experiences. I feel like I should get it, but buddy, I don't, and I'm sorry.
I don't understand what you mean with this.
Like,
I'm glad you're having a good time. It's essentially how I felt this whole time. Is I was like, they're clearly enjoying making this movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But when I say it's a good adaptation, you look at what so much of the guest era was of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, and this is past the guest era. Masks was written by, I don't think it was Eastman and Laird. I feel like I should have this ready. I'm so sorry. But Mirage, Volume 1, issue 46.
See, you say that it's a really good adaptation of the comics,
Michael
and
Dooney.
I was not as deep into it as you were. Did you get the answer?
Yeah, Michael Dooney. Michael Dooney wrote both of them. He did the cover. He did the pencils. They're Dooney affairs, and he was part of the main core of guys. It's not like when Rick Veitch wrote his little trilogy or the Michael Zulli Year of the Turtle trilogy. This is one of the in-house Mirage guys who wrote this story.
You know that exact moment I was just describing where your friend is trying to say something to you and wants you to come along for the ride, and you really, really want to, but you just don't know how? I just experienced that again in real time.
Right. And I get that. But that's what you're missing. That's what you're missing is the fact that those two issues 46 and 47, released in April and May of 1992, and very clearly are the basis for like what this film grew from. They are the genetic material. But you're not wrong. As somebody who never read those coming to this movie, you're going to be like, what the hell is happening? And even if somebody who did read them, here's the inciting action of this film. The inciting action of this film is that inexplicably, April O'Neil went to a flea market and bought a 390-year-old Japanese magical scepter.
Yeah. So you know how we talk a lot when we make these movie commentary or whatever you want to call them episodes where we break this shit down, and I say something like things will sometimes just happen in this movie for no reason. They just have to happen in order to move the plot along. This might be the most like perfect example of that. Right, and this movie has a lot of this as well. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie that you're just like, there was no reason for this to occur or work, but both happened. It worked and it occurred in this film, and so here we are. Like, this is it, right? Like, she shows up with a bunch of weird stuff from a flea market that while she was in Japan. First of all,
not while she was in Japan, in New York. She is about to leave for vacation, and as payment for the turtles watching her house, which also makes like crazy sense because you call your other human friend who you were kind of dating at the end of the first movie, and then when you see his Prisoner of Zenda, literally Prisoner of Zenda style double, you go to him, Casey, as if Casey has also come back in time.
Yeah, but
there's give him the keys to your apartment.
There's this moment in this beginning of this movie where it is all just exposition setup from April doing this random ass thing that has no like there's no basis of reality for why she would do it. So she asks her turtle friends to watch over her apartment, and payment for that, this is fucking wild because I could have sworn she was trying to say that she brought this stuff back from Japan. She was leaving
for vacation. That's why she's there giving them the keys to her apartment.
This is even fucking crazier than I thought.
She's leaving for vacation, but I stopped by the flea market on the way over to get you all gifts.
She is going to Japan though, right?
No.
Where is she going?
It's never said.
This is wild.
But the whole fact of April going on vacation is how they wave away. That's the crazy part, Sejin. As crazy as everything that I've just blown your mind with, the reason that April is going on vacation is to hand wave away someone going, oh, but doesn't she have to work? What's going to happen while she's in the past?
So she picks up all of this shit from a flea market, brings it to the Turtles. Don't know why she gives anybody anything, to be entirely honest. Like, we talk about how baffling it is that one of the things she bought was this 400-year-old relic that she gives to Splinter, or intends to give to Splinter, never gets the chance to, I should say. But, like, she does. That's not the only weird thing in that bag, man.
Oh,
what
dude.
the fuck is with the lamp she gives to Mikey?
It's Christmas time. Let's do a presents recap. For Raphael, she buys him a fedora, which we know he already has from the first movie.
But if anybody out there knows anybody that owns a fedora, you know damn well that they own more than one.
So Raphael's gift for Ninja Christmas is a fedora.
I found that one sweet. I will say that. With everything that I was going into this movie being like, man, I love that first one, and man, I don't know how I feel about that second one. The second that this movie has the balls to be like, yeah, we want to relate ourselves more to the first movie than the second, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's sweet. I'll take that. But sorry, go on.
That's fine. For Michelangelo, she gives him what appears to be a broken hula lamp, because he looks in his bag that looks like it is full to the brim of all sorts of things, and he takes out a Hawaiian shirt pattern lampshade that he proceeds to put on his head and make a like Elvis in Blue Hawaii joke.
No, I'm sorry. No. You're missing a very important beat here. He does do that eventually, but there is a clear minute where he is so fucking sad. He's like, why did I get a bag of trash? Why did you just give me your trash? Is this from your car? Where did this come from? He is like visibly upset at this bag of nonsense that she has given him. He then goes on to say, well, I guess I can be stupid with it. Like
which is honestly, it's real big and important for his character growth in this movie, but we'll get there, I guess. But he never takes out the lamp part until, like, later on in the background. Like,
in the background of a shot, you see him actually dancing with, like, the lamp in his hand, and you're like, okay.
But it's so weird, because it's like, did she just buy him a lampshade? Based on his reaction, it looks like she just gave him a lampshade.
And then what does she give the other two?
So Donatello gets a classic, like, 1948 to 1965 radio that is still on, like, tri-tubes as the way that it runs. And he's
phenomenal present for Donnie. Nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Nothing to do with something to do with the rest of the movie in the adaptation, the comic book adaptation, because Raphael throws his sigh at the radio that is playing the ZZ Top song, Can't Stop Rockin'. And in the comic, he goes, oh, it slipped. And Donnie's like, that's fine. I've been wanting to update our sound system anyway. So then April gives him a freaking radio. So, like, in the script somewhere, it was meant to be that way.
Nice.
But they wipe that away. That doesn't exist. So Donnie gets, like, a fun piece of outdated technology and establish that. For Leonardo, she gets him a book of, like, swords. And it was the first time in a long time that I felt connected to Leonardo as a character. And not that I love Leonardo, but in the fact that, like, you use swords, so you must love fucking swords. Here's
everything we can do to get you anything related to swords. Here you go.
And he's so excited about it. And then that one has bearing on the script later on because he uses his fucking book of swords that he's had for all of 10 minutes to identify where and when Prince Kenshin is from. Based on his sword, and according to my new book, he's from the 16th century.
Oh, they do that so many times in this movie, though. Not necessarily with that book, but they want to throw that shit down. They flop their dick on the table every time they get the chance to talk about the history of feudal Japan, where or there's like that whole thing where it's like, oh, that's why they can understand English, because you see, by this time in the 1800s, the British had invaded or some shit. Like
they were trading with the English.
Yeah, it's not even like. Yeah, it's not even like it is it's the wildest thing. It's information I don't know, so I respect it for like it wanting to talk about that, but its eagerness to want to remind me how often this movie did its research in order to get that one part of the story right is just like at some point you're just like, get away from me, kid, you're bothering me. Like, what are you doing? Like,
The big one for me is when Donatello is trying to explain that the only way that we can use the scepter to go back in time is if the perfect mass is displaced. And all the other brothers are like, huh? And then Kenshin's like, oh, it's like equal mass displacement. And Donnie's like, that's right. I guess what's true what they said. They had great schooling back then in feudal Japan.
yeah, yeah. Or and also, I don't think it's feudal Japan. I think it's Shogun, which I think is different. Again, no, I'm not an expert on this. And this movie would lead me to believe that it knows more than me about that stuff, but I don't think it does.
No,
it probably does, to be clear.
I mean, it's technically the Edo period that they go to. The Edo period or the Tokugawa period, is the period between 1603 and 1868 in the history of Japan.
Well, okay, so that makes sense in a weird way, because of the samurai stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens is they end up touching this scepter at the same time as four guys in the past touched the scepter.
There's no way those four guys weigh the same amount as that.
There's a whole lot I have to ask about this entire fucking affair with the scepter, but I want to get this out so that people know where we're at. So they touch this, they go back, and they are suddenly in this like samurai, like shogun style wear, and you find out that what they've replaced is the four hired like main
the honor
security,
guard
essentially the honor guard for this warlord in this area, right? And like this idea that they would be these basically the you know, anybody that doesn't know the history of samurai, at some point they were traveling warriors, that mercenaries most of the time, didn't do a lot of great stuff depending on how much money exchanged hands. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can be read about that, right? But it makes sense that this warlord in this area probably hired for shogun or samurai, whatever they qualify as, to cover his ass, right? So like they end up being in this very specific like echelon when they first show up that is kind of important to the plot, that they are not necessarily ordered around by the English guys or by any of the other soldiers, but they're also still kind of have to kind of like keep face. And it leads to some funny shit. Like it leads to some good stuff, like them growling at the British guys when they show up at the camp and stuff like that. Like, so there's some good bits of them having to be in those outfits in order to hide themselves. But yeah, the whole idea that the way that the scepter works is that they need to touch the scepter, and somewhere in time and space, somebody else that weighs exactly the same as them is going to be replaced by them. I mean, what are the rules of this? Because like technically they touch it themselves at some point and then they touch it later. Could they replace themselves? No, it has to be another person. Okay, I'll buy that. But does that other person just come back, and then like that other person, the way that time works, at some point in history somebody touched that thing, right? Like, how many times back do you get replaced? What's the guarantee that you're going to swap back with the exact same person that touched it the first time? How do they know about this? Like, we need to be on this timer together. Time shouldn't work that way. As long as they touch it at some point in time, then at this point in time they should be replaced, right? Like it starts to, the time travel aspect of this movie is fucking rockier
the
than
weakest
Endgame.
part of the
like
movie.
It's crazy.
It is. So first of all, I'm so glad we're doing this 30 minutes in. We got to get past this because there's so much more to discuss in this movie, including one of those things where Devin searches for meaning to make all of this make sense as the perfect Christmas trilogy. That's happening later on down the line. 30 minutes in, we're discussing the bullshit rules of time travel because for some reason, their two planes of existence in the space-time continuum are only overlapping for roughly 60 hours. Which is the first, like, say, huh? Like, why does this magic scepter have fucking slider rules? Why? Yeah. Like, what the fuck is that? And it only feels like that's there so that so that Casey Jones could say, how about you say that to me again in American? And Donatello's response is, if we're not back in 2.5 days, we're turtle soup. But again...
Well, and then they say that, right? And then later on in the movie, that never really becomes more of a conversation. Like, there's never a moment where they're just like ticking clock. We got to do this now or we're done. Like, we don't see like somebody start to disappear out of a picture. We don't get this idea of what the consequences truly are. We're just told it in that moment. And then what's wild is that they'll set these rules up for this and then they'll just break them. Because like the clothing rule is fucking absurd.
The clothing rule. You want to talk about I was so impressed as a 30-year-old rewatching this movie when they're like, yo, Michelangelo, what's with the shorts? And he's like, well, when he came here, he and April switched clothes. We're naked. Let's have some respect for whoever's going to come back and replace it. I got pairs of shorts for everybody. And they're like, Mikey, you fucking idiot. But like, no, that's a smart thing that Michelangelo realized, and it is the heart of the Turtles. It's dumb that he focused
on it, but this is Michelangelo to a T.
Yeah.
It's stupid that it's the thing he focused on, but his solution to it is genius.
Yeah, we're just going to put on boxer shorts so that these guys don't come through naked. And the one guy that he switches with, who Casey affectionately calls Zenmeister, he gets the shorts and has no top on. But then the other three guys, they got to bring their underwears, which honestly on some level I was thankful for, because I was looking at April in Prince Kenshin's outfit and I'm like, she ain't wearing no underwear under there. Poor April. Poor April, naked in the past.
But she wasn't. She had clothes on.
No, she had his clothing on, but I mean undergarment naked.
She was, yeah, no, those three dudes came over in their fucking Mormon garments is what they did.
Yeah, like, it's like, oh, look, good for them, but also that, like, Michelangelo being like, we should probably just throw clothes on, right? And also, why did their bandanas get to stay with them? Why did they not show up in the past without bandanas?
Well, like, it really lends itself to the not so, there's not much more evidence to this, but it's kind of hard to argue in this exact moment. The idea that those are just part of their face.
Yeah, right? It's one of those, it's like, it's not even the gargoyle rules of like anything that we consider ours also turns to stone. Like we consider the masked part of us. But wouldn't it be really cool if their outfits of the honor guard were also their colors and like that's how we know them? And then they rip off those and they get cool new fucking bandanas.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's a lot in this movie that had so much potential, but this movie just doesn't care to go into.
Then going one step further, Kenshin, when he activates the scepter, he reads an inscription on it. The gates of time, through the gates of time you open, or like this weird thing there, strange syntax. So then the question is, does it only activate because he read that inscription?
Yeah, so maybe that's what starts the quote-unquote 60-hour window, but we wouldn't have any way to clock that 60 hours on the New York side of things, right? It's wild that's Well,
that's another...
The time travel rules of this movie are fucking nonsense, right? And this movie knows it's nonsense. They really just want you to just think about it as unexplainable magic as much as possible. They just constantly just lean into, it's magic. It's fine. And stop asking questions, it's magic.
And then there's no more thing is that another abandoned storyline that does come back up in the comic adaptation is Donatello has a watch that he has synchronized with time in New York. So that comment from Splinter, which we got to talk about Splinter, and I don't want to, but we have to, of we will check the scepter every 12 hours. Like, that has meaning because in the book it shows them sync two watches, and then in that first fight that they just zoop into the middle of, where Mikey loses the scepter, Donatello loses the watch when he's thrown from his horse. So it becomes like a whole thing of like, all right, so as soon as they escape from the dungeons, that happens eventually, Donatello starts making a sundial so he can like get a rough approximation of what time it is and then apply it to the New York time so that they can keep having that. And April's like, why do you bother? Just use my watch. And there's that moment that very clearly her watch is going to be important because she offers it to the prison guard. You see this? It's a Rolex. That whole scene happens because that watch is going to be important to the plot. But then it's not.
Keep her Rolex.
What?
Why did she get to keep her Rolex?
Why'd she get to keep her Walkman? Just so we could hear the weird Barrio Boys cover of Conga?
This shit just happened in this movie, man.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I think.
So they get sent back in time.
They get sent back in time.
Yeah, and then there's this, but what's wild is because of the time travel rules of this particular movie about there needing to be a body switch, there is this running B plot of Casey Jones and Splinter babysitting these 5 dudes from like olden times Japan, right? Like, and like there's a language barrier issue that obviously is going to become the butt of a bunch of jokes in 1993, right? There's also all of this stuff about like culture stuff that they're introducing that can be forgiven because there's also time travel, but it did start to border on a little, feeling a little bit like racist a lot of the time. Like there's so much going on in this movie that just is like kind of eyebrow raising, not nearly as much as some of the shit that we saw in Surf Ninjas earlier, right? Like, yeah. Again, there are kind of echoes of that coming through. It's just this like weird, what they want to lean on for comedy in this movie is also fucking buck wild because like it like there's references to Wayne's World in this film.
Yeah, can we talk about April? Oh god. So the last thing, we're about to go back in time just like the Ninja Turtles and talk about all the inexplicable things that happened in the past. But there is the important thing that Casey Jones is brought in and he's like, I cannot wait to fucking murder another dude with a garbage truck. Sign me the fuck up. And they're like, whoa, Casey, we just need you to babysit these guys. And he's like, So, like, that does happen. So now we're in the past. And they're in the past. April is locked up. She meets the Prisoner of Zenda version of Casey Jones, Wit. His name is Wit. His name isn't even like Wit Jones. He's not like Mr. Jones. Like,
no, that's what I mean. It's like this movie, like, if they go and they put him in this role, and they have her have a couple of moments of like, you look just like my friend, but like nothing more than that. It never goes to like I'm falling in love with you like I did him. There's never this whole like, what's your last name? Oh, it's Jones. Like there's no moment where they take advantage of the fact that they have this dude playing these 2 roles. So what is the goddamn point of him playing 2 roles if you're never going to lean into it?
And he's the star. It is starring Elias Koteas. Top billing in this movie is him, and it's because of that dual role nature. And yeah, it's really strange because there's that moment where he's like, take me with you. Because he's got that weird Australian accent. No offense to Australia. His accent is like not great. What they like, yeah, you should go with that, Eli. He's like, take me with you. So like, even on that level, you're like, oh, so these guys always fall for April. But then again, all this stuff with April kind of falls flat because it's Paige Turco and not Judith Hoag. So, like, we've never seen Paige Turco and Casey Jones interact. There's not even a throwaway line in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 as to why Casey isn't around. Like, It didn't work out between us, and so he's working through his feelings. Like, it's a little frustrating. So they escape from the dungeon. They bring Wit with them. I hate that his name is Wit. I'm so sorry. And the first thing that April does is turn the long, like, doji pants that Kenji was wearing into a skirt, basically. And Seijin and I, we shared gifts with each other before the show recorded.
Not gifts, like
GIF,
good old-fashioned
graphical interface files. Thanks, hackers. With each other, and she's like, what? I'm on vacation. When she turns the pants that are down to her ankles into basically a mini skirt in Japan. It's pretty short, the length of skirt that's left for a kid's movie. I'm not being a prude about her clothing. I'm saying this movie was made for a 7-year-old Devin Decker, that she's showing a lot of skin there.
There's a lot going on in this movie in the ways in which they really want to build up April as this badass character, right? And they do really succeed in that. There's a lot of really good moments for her in that regard. I mean, there's a lot about the ways that she is much more stern and straightforward with what she wants from the turtles. Like, you know, and part of that is because in the first movie there's a lot of stuff going on with her just like, oh my god, I can't believe you're real. And then in the second movie it's poorly written. So like when they get the opportunity here to really get kind of like give her some depth, like I do think there are moments where they succeed with that, right? Her whole moment when she gets accused of being a witch when she comes
So
back,
good.
and rather than
So
like
good.
cry about it or argue, like she just straight up fucking like owns it and tries to scare the shit out of all of those guys. Phenomenal moments, right? But then they intersperse that with these moments of wanting her to be this like this object, this sexualized object, both by wit, right, as this guy Casey Jones stand in this period, but also everything with the turtles, like the weird shit that the turtles say to her, and like it's laughed off by her as like, oh, you guys, like you know, boys will be boys mentality, and like they are friends, they're practically family by this point, right? So like I don't want to like dictate what the boundaries of their relationships should be, but when the only female figure you have on screen for that is the coming in from all the other movies is treated like this, and then the only other female figure you bring into the movie is treated as just a love interest for Michelangelo, who
with no growth there at all. Like
it's
it
real
comes
weird
from
because
nowhere.
like she does nothing but talk about Kenji. We're talking about is her name Milas or Midas?
Mitsu.
Mitsu,
Because
thank
they
you.
have that wonderful joke. It's like, I must get back to Mitsu. And Raphael, Mitsu? Exactly.
Yeah, but like there's the so right, so then we introduce this other female character in Mitsu, and the entire thing is thrown away on Michelangelo like falling in love with her to the point where he wants to stay behind in this whole time travel escapade. But as I've mentioned, him being there is dependent on another man being removed from time, and he's just like, yeah, fuck that guy, I want to stay here because of this beautiful woman who has told me multiple times how in love she is with this other guy that I met that was in the future that needs to come back. So
Yeah,
what does he think is going to happen when
that's an April
Kenji comes
problem.
back?
That's an April problem. April will go back. I could stay here. And weirdly, I love how much we're jumping around in this movie because in some ways, Rashomon's storytelling with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is the best way to explain it and experience it. But
right,
Zenmeister,
yeah. But talking about the ways, about the ways in which she is treated, like all of the women in this movie are treated, where they really want to give them these powerful moments, important story beats. They want to make them these powerful female figures in it. Totally love all of that, but it is completely thrown out of balance by your four main heroes of this movie, quote unquote, just like throwing like swing jokes at April when she makes her skirt short and stuff.
And Sejin sent the gif of her being like, I'm on vacation. And it's Donnie and Leo going, absolutely, absolutely. And then they both go, swing. And it's like, we get it. Wayne's World hit pretty big at the box office. It's not unbelievable that the Turtles saw it as teenagers and that they would emulate it. All of that works out. Where the disconnect exists for me is that I am a 7-year-old who is watching the Ninja Turtles make an erection joke.
You make erection jokes at somebody. Not even just like in general, like not just on stage, just like generally talking about erections. Like looking at a female body and then doing something inappropriate towards it. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. It's just, and again, it was the time, and at the same time, you have to think the movies were meant for the adult audience that turned the Ninja Turtles into the phenomenon that is like still going strong and had a movie released in 2023.
Yeah.
There like, that's the thing. I say this is the best adaptation because Ninja Turtle comics at the time were very much, here's a weird fucking situation that we got into. It's not weird enough that we're humanoid turtles, but as a result of that, we find ourselves in the weirdest fucking situations. So, like, that part of it's great. Fucking April bought an antique at the flea market, and suddenly we're in feudal Japan. Okay. And they just go with it. That's what works about it. But the 1990 film, as an adaptation, did a fantastic job walking the line between being for adults and being for children.
Mhm.
like almost Toy Storian in the fact that the jokes that I do not understand as a kid, I will understand as an adult. And my parents who are forced to watch this movie with me will find some enjoyment in the film as
Well, and
well.
more than just the jokes, also the structure and the references and stuff, right? Like the Humphrey Bogart stuff that you
Yep.
see. Like yeah, that's a joke, but there's a level to that that really kind of talks about Raph and how he sees himself as this like noir style like vigilante, right? And like and again, I think Toy Story is a really good reference for that, right? Like it's that idea that like the easy surface level thing that everybody points out is, man, Toy Story is really good because like it has jokes for the kids and jokes for the adults, but it also has story for the kids and story for the adults. It has
Yeah.
character growth for the kids and character growth for the adults. Like it is not just a good movie because the jokes are still funny. It's a good movie because it ages with you, right? And the first movie does a decent job of that.
I mean, that's the exact thing. All of those, I always talk about it. I talked about it with Surf Ninjas, as we probably should have watched Surf Ninjas. I would also nominate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. When they all wanted to watch the 1990s Turtle movie to make fun of it, and then all of those people in the room, like, watched it and had this weird reverence and connection to it, that's because, yeah, now you understand this story as adults. Like, that weird middle ground where, like, oh, I can't believe I liked this as a kid. You could laugh at it, but now that you're adults watching this movie, you're like, oh, damn, no, this had some themes in it that spoke to my parents when they were forced to watch this with me as a kid. And some references. Oh, didn't they use this place in the Grapes of Wrath? I didn't get that at 4. I think it's hilarious at 34. Like, it just all works and connects in this really strange way. And then Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, all the way to fucking the kid level. All the way to the kid level. So then it gets to Turtles 3, and they're trying to recapture what happened with the first movie in a lot of ways. They move away from working with Jim Henson, and we're going to have to talk about the suits at some point, and why not do it now? But they move away from Jim Henson, and one of the main reasons was, the other reason that the second film was so infantilized was that Henson didn't want them fighting or being so violent, and he didn't also want violence happening around them. That's like the main reason that Casey isn't there. Forget whatever Marvel No Prize reasons we can come up with. The real reason is he's too violent a character.
Yeah,
and I don't want even
which
that.
is fair. We referenced ourselves the fact that he crushes a man in a garbage truck in the first movie.
Honestly, that's what should have happened. All of my complaints about this movie, and there aren't a lot of complaints about it. The major complaint is you get so close to the joke and then they back away. If when he launched the catapult, Wit said, "Oops," perfection. It would have been
the reference.
Perfection.
That would have been the bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would have been the thing for us to hang our hat on and hang our mask on, right? And then like that's it. That's the Casey Jones moment. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's why Elias had to play that role. So no one else can go, oops, like him. And it would have been great. But it doesn't happen.
So you mentioned the suits. I have some questions about the suits. First of all, I just have a big note in front of me that just says teeth. The teeth of this movie scare the ever-loving shit out of me. But the suits, right? This movie is so proud of those suits that they give the suits alone a 2-minute opening dance number.
Yeah. To a ZZ Top song.
Yeah. The opening credits of this movie, when we get to when they do a little pre-setup with like the story of the warlord and everything going on in that time period. But then they come forward, and when they come forward, sorry, go ahead.
Let's save that for the cherry on the bottom to talk about that opening and how classic samurai Japanese film it is.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Beautiful.
And then we cut to the Turtles dancing and singing to ZZ Top, right, in at home. And it took me a long time today as I watched it to really figure out what was going on. I had never really I don't deconstruct movies when I'm watching them regularly. I would pull my hair out if I was doing this all the time. But because when I was watching it for the show today, I actually finally was like, okay, why is this dance number in here? It is cringy, it is silly, and it's really wild. But I then noticed about a minute in, I was like, oh, those aren't the same suits as before. Oh, they're actually they're much better for movement and fighting. Clearly, for fighting, they're showing all these weird fighting moves in the middle of their dancing. And then I was like, oh, that's why. That's why this is here. This is here for them to literally show off the glow up that the turtle suits have gotten from the last film, from the last two films. And it is a wild moment, but it is a damn good showcase for what they can now do. Because if you compare the ways that they can do some of those kicks and some of those movements, we see a split. And the ways that they can do that and do full screen shots of the characters and all of this, and just have and long shots of the characters and all this, so you know they're not pulling any major like Hollywood magic to like trick you into thinking it is the same person in the same suit. Like, it's all to show off the how they have advanced that technology, and it is wild because while the suits are definitely cooler in the ways in which they allow the actor to better perform what they're doing, and in a martial arts film you want that, they are lacking a lot of the magic of the suits from the first movie, at least, even the second movie, right? And so like it's this wild thing where like they're showing off these suits and it's cool, and I understand why they're so invested in them, but this is for nobody else but the creators of this film, because anybody watching this movie is just thinking those don't look as good as they used to.
Yeah. And it's All Effects Company that takes over. They take over for the suits and the animatronics. The suits, even though they are a bit of a downgrade, I think we both admitted that, the movement is choice. That is impressive. Watching the stuff that Leonardo does, the multiple kicks where the weight of the gray sponge suits for the first two, like they talk about kicks were almost impossible to do. Mm-hmm. Like we would have to stage them and set them up. Like the fact that he does like 4 or 5 kicks while like moving in a circle is impressive.
I think if I were to dig down into it any deeper, I do think that my biggest issue with the suits is when they're not new and improved, but rather just what they used to be on top of some new and improved shit. Like the teeth is like a wild example. Basically the heads, right? Like
the heads are the big problem.
Are the thing that really kind of ruin what's going on with the rest of the because arms and like limb stuff, definitely better, definitely improved, and looks fine on screen. Especially because they spent a lot of this movie in weirder costumes, right? Yeah. So to put those costumes on top of the old costumes would have been fucking nuts.
Impossible.
You know, the shells look good, things like that. But it is all in the ways in which like the face moves, where you still have like some robotics going on and things like that. It's all in the ways in which like the shapes of the eyes and stuff. And some of that is because they're trying to match up with some of the cartoon stuff. Some of that is because they made quote unquote improvements in that technology, and so it reforms things. But like, there is something lost in the heads and the faces, I think, in this movie. And since there's so much focus on those and, you know, shots and movie making and stuff, it feels like the suits are a downgrade. But I do think the bodies, I would say, are really well done and do allow for all this movement stuff you're talking about.
And it's what they go on to use for the musical Mutagen tour, which is not what it was called at the time. It was the Coming Out of Their Shells tour, but now they go by musical Mutagen tour. Either or, they're based on the 3 suits because those guys have to perform a rock opera on stage. So they need to be able to do all of that. And they go forward and are used in the Next Mutation, which I don't know if we're ever going to talk about the Next Mutation, the live-action follow-up of everything that introduced Venus and the Dragon Lord and all sorts of crazy things.
Have we not talked about... We've talked about the show before, right?
We've talked about the show brief, but it's I don't know if we'll do a full episode.
I thought we did a pilot or something. Okay, well,
no.
I thought we had done a commentary at least.
No, we did Rise of the TMNT. That's the only thing that we've covered. We covered the pilot for that and then the movie. We've never talked about the Next Mutation other than to acknowledge its existence because it technically fits into this universe that we've been celebrating Christmas with. But there's also the fact of the 4th movie, which I feel maybe at the end of this, that was going to be the direct follow-up to this. But the all effects, what I think the major deficiency is the puppeteers who are working the animatronics in the faces are lax. And for like that's just what it comes down to. Because the problems that really pull me out of it, and it is immersion breaking moments, is when like we're supposed to be focusing on Raphael and we see Michelangelo in the background and like his mouth is not closed all the way. So he's got like a weird like Joker grin kind of going. Or it's things like that. Or like when the lip sync isn't great. It's all this stuff that Jim Henson and the Henson Company obsessed over. It's Christmas time, so it's a perfect time to talk about the Emmett Otter Jug Band Christmas bloopers of when it's Emmett and his mom and the gang shows up in the town. And like that blooper clip of them just staying in character the whole time and running it a bunch of times and making jokes and all of that, because they would take thousands of takes to make sure it was perfect. All Effects did not do that. They were trying to get this movie done and in the theaters to keep riding the wave. So like, it's all right. No one's going to care that his face looks fucking terrifying in the background. But because of that lack of attention to detail, it's a huge downgrade. And then you don't see that with Next Mutation. Next Mutation, despite being a television production, so less money and stricter deadlines, they are very on top of making sure that the sync is better with the lips. They're making sure that like their faces and their emotions are correct and match what is happening. It is the worst part about this movie is the suit. Well, the worst part about this movie is Splinter. I hate this Splinter. The design of Splinter in this is terrifying. Yeah. He's all like bear patches and like skinny fingers and the new voice.
And there's also moments where it's clearly just like a Crypt Keeper style top half animatronic, you know, those moments when he's like in the window like looking out, like there is definitely there's nothing below this waistline vibes coming from that particular puppet, and like it scares the shit out of me.
And when you consider like how active Splinter is in the first two movies, to see him like that, and he's still like a major character in the B plot with Casey and the displaced warriors. And it's just, and then you hear his voice and it's like everything feels off about Splinter in this way. I mean, like, you got to think about the fact that like Robbie Rist and Michael Sisti, is that who does Michelangelo's voice? Their voices are all further down. But like, I know Robbie Rist is in all of the movies as Leonardo, and that is freaking awesome. No, Robbie Rist is Michelangelo in all the movies. Brian Tochi is the voice of Leonardo. You bring back Corey Feldman from the first movie, so Donatello sounds like Donatello again. And Raphael is the only other new voice, but like Raphael is Raphael. So like it's almost like you just kind of do the dark and brooding. And his voice changed from the first to the second, because they weren't going to get Josh Pays again to do that, because he was on the rise, so they got a different person to do the voices. And then they bring in, as Splinter, it's James Murray, and his voice is so different from Kevin Clash. Is that Elmo, essentially, the guy who played Elmo?
Yeah, in the first movie you're talking about.
Yeah, the first two, it's the same actor, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Yes, you have to believe you're right, but yes, yeah.
So it's just like, and it almost feels like they try to downplay him, or they're like, oh, we can't get back Clash, so we'll have less of Splinter. But then that results in like half Splinter in the window. And it's just like, and that's just like even more immersion breaking. Cause you're like,
no, I mean, he looks like an animatronic at Disney World. Yeah. Like it is. Like, and you know, that's saying something, because those robots are top of the line. But at the end of the day, the, what's the word I'm looking for? The uncanny valley.
Yes.
Is just so hard to cross in this movie.
And it's made more difficult to cross because you see these other suits that have so much life in them. Yeah. It's one thing that, like, if it were just Splinter in the movie, you'd be like, oh, well, that's what Splinter fucking looks like. But look what else you guys were capable of.
Right.
Like, let's work on him too. He's the fifth mutant in this movie. You only got 5 mutants in this movie. Let's make them all look realistic.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. The complete disconnect from other turtley lore, right? a lot of the reviews that I was looking at to kind of back up and kind of do some research and figure out where some shit came from really kind of leaned on this idea that it was really hard for people that were both fans of the comic to get into this and for fans of the movies or TV show even, because there really isn't anything in this movie to really grasp. Like we talked about, you said there's definitely some deep cuts to look at, and there's some inspiring like shots and things like that, but like there is no Shredder in this movie, for example, right? Except that there is, for like 1 second on screen, there is this implied connection between the Turtles and what's going on in the past, because a scroll is unrolled.
The
right?
Sacred Scroll of Death, which is another.
Like, you want to talk about a plotline that goes
subtitle.
nowhere? Like what? Like
it
supposedly
is...
the Turtles have quote unquote been here before, or some version of them has, and defeated the old ancestor that. I'll be fucking damned if that's not the Shredder, right? That's definitely what's supposed to be on that sheet. So there's this weird idea that possibly we're looking at the lineage of the Shredder, and what we know of the Kenshi, right? Like is he's next in line in that family, right?
Yeah.
So there's this weird thing of like part of what they're doing is trying to get themselves back to restore a timeline that eventually introduces their greatest villain. It's a wildly heavy thought that it never gets addressed in this movie beyond this one shot where they look at the scroll, where you watch these four, what they refer to as Kappa, which I think we've talked about before in these very episodes, like the weird kind of connection between the Turtles and the concept of Kappa. Yeah, but like we see these four turtle figures fighting the Shredder in the past, and that has been a family like history for them, and then it's never brought up again.
So, Jesus, here's some things. If this was meant to be an adaptation of Masks, those 2 issues from April and May of 1992, that is set even further back in time. That takes place in 1373 Japan. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's the big thing where Lord Norinaga talks about, that was 300 years ago. Like, that's his speech about the scroll. Is that that's supposed to represent something that happened 300 years ago. So, in a weird way, that scroll could represent the Turtles being in the 1300s in the comic books, which would then go a step further to the fact that that Shredder figure is actually the person that they're helping at that time. They're not fighting against him. They're fighting alongside him in order to stop the machinations of Savante Romero, who is trying to take their time magic to free himself from exile in the past. And then really cool that, like, through the way that folklore and history and tales go, that then that is interpreted as my ancestors were attacked by these Kappa rather than assisted by these Kappa. But the big thing about that, the only reason why I talk about all of this stuff is A, that adaptation has another mutant in the giant dinosaur humanoid that acts as the samurai of Savante Romero, and has this whole speech about what is samurai means to serve. What is a better representation of a samurai to serve someone who is good or someone who is evil? And it's like this whole existential conversation that they have in the middle of this black and white comic. But the final part of that is Raphael, while he was in that village, taught a bunch of people as a way to like work off his anger and remain focused in the past. Because like Leo's like, we can't act too fast. We need to make sure we know more. So Raphael starts training an army. And the final shot of that, I may have shared that one in the Discord. I did. The black and white sky. And they're like, we will take Raphael's teachings and we will create our own clan. And as every journey starts with the first step, we will call ourselves the Foot. So, like, it all connects in this weird way where, like, Masks is part 1, this is part 2, and it leads to they are the creators of their greatest enemies. And, like, I feel like that whole thing is just wiped away from this movie because they're like, nobody read that fucking comic book. Nobody cares about that connection. And I'm like, but like that has to be like, I read through 46 and 47 again, and I'm like, that's the connection they're trying to make in the movie. That's the past that this scroll represents. And they just like, no, we don't want to do that. Nobody's going to care about that. And on some level, I get that. I get where they'd be
why even put it in the movie?
Yeah, exactly. It's and to the fact that like for a long time, people believed the title of this was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Sacred Scroll of Death. Like, cause it, and then I watched this movie again, and I'm like, oh, that title suddenly makes sense because Lord Norinaga looks at this scroll as the freaking premonition of how he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, this is so crazy. But, like, they don't go that extra step. Just like they eliminate the watch and all these other things. They also eliminate, talking about the matter displacement problem, in the comic book adaptation of this story, the only one who wants to go back to New York is Donatello. Raphael, Michelangelo, and Leonardo are like, we should stay in the past. We fit in better here. And then when Donatello's like, well, what about the matter displacement? They're like, we'll get statues and they will represent us, right? It just needs to weigh the same as us, right? That, like, it's the same swap. And it's like, well, this is like a really deep sort of moment right here where all of the turtles except for Donatello, who's like, I freaking need my MacBook, guys. Is like, well, I'm going back to New York. But they're like, no, we don't have to hide here. We're appreciated here. Like, that whole storyline comes like right at the end of this movie and is the more interesting storyline of like Raphael being like, look at the water, Leo. Like, what? He's like, there's no beer bottles, no tires. It's just beautiful nature. And it's like, yeah, I hadn't considered that. We live in a fucking sewer. I don't know. Like
the movie is full of so many good like seeds, and then all they do is just keep mowing over this poor plant every time it tries to grow.
I mean, Raphael's whole story with Yoshi. I mean, is it time?
So they end up in the past. Wait, there's a whole cavalcade of characters that we haven't even talked about yet that they meet. So there's Yoshi, there's the young boy that Raph takes under his wing, right? There's an entire other villain in this movie played by, what's the guy's name that plays the British dude in this?
Stuart Wilson.
Yeah. Oh man, Stuart Wilson plays the character of Walker, who is a wild figure. So he's not a pirate, essentially he's like an English businessman.
He is a pirate. He is 100% a pirate. It is pirates versus ninjas. This might be the impetus point.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's all I could think the whole time, right? Is they don't label him a pirate, but he is essentially, from what we can tell in this movie, he's a privateer at the very least, right?
He's a pirate. He would call himself a privateer, but he is a pirate. And he's a pirate along the way that, like, we know about Edward Teach from, like, later things we learned, where, like, he tried to hold himself up as, like, this refined nobleman, despite the fact that he made his fortune off of murder and robbing. Like, he's like, but I'm a gentleman. It is but my crew that does that. And they nail that. Like, Niles and the rest of the crew being mangy fucking scurvy sea dogs.
Right.
Like, is great. But he holds himself that. But there's also that weird thing where, like, Walker, you're back. And he's like, yeah, no, you thought I died, but I'm alive again. And that's never, like, explored at all.
So it gives this, like, interesting flavor to the two villains having actually been at each other's throats before, but now they're teaming up because of what's going on, and, like, all this shit. And, like, it's just wild, like, the ways in which there's this whole other villain in this movie, who honestly is the bigger villain.
He's the big bad, yeah.
Like, and, like, we don't really get a read on him as being anything more than just, like, just kind of an asshole until about halfway through this film, when suddenly we realize like how big of an asshole, because he's been lying to everybody, including the other villains. So there's so many other things going on in this, and then
he's Hans Gruber though. He just wants to steal money. He don't care who dies because.
And then there's a moment where, and then another plot line that's completely lost is Donnie building his own scepter.
That is such a So,
which is such a MacGuffin because it doesn't go anywhere. They end up not needing it.
Immediately. It is. So I bought the San Diego Comic-Con special edition Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 action figures. Like I did with the first time that freaking Ernie Reyes Jr. got a figure. I got that. I was excited because of Surf Ninjas. Because we were talking about this, I was able to get the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. The difference between the 2-packs that you could have gotten at Walmart if you acted fast, they are now sold out and going for 3 times as much as they were initially. The difference that pack is it comes with the scepter from modern New York, so it's like kind of rusty, the scepter from Japan, and the homemade scepter. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, when does this happen in the movie? I do not remember this happening in the movie. And then there's a pretty big like detour in the center of it where, well, we'll just build our own scepter. And it goes nowhere. They're like, well, it's done. And then Michelangelo drops it and breaks it. And they're like, well, now we don't have any time to build another one. We live in feudal Japan now.
But then it doesn't matter, because then young Yoshi, who we met in the second half of this movie, it turns out that he knows where the scepter is. The mystery of where the scepter is so that we can get back is completely solved instantly by this kid just being like, I had it in the basement the whole time. And there's like this weird moment where you don't quite know like how many people knew it was there, but essentially everybody knew it was there. And it's like, what the hell is going on in this movie?
That scene. First of all, the scene where Raphael goes to Yoshi to be like, look, you need to be the adult tomorrow and take all your friends up into the mountains and just fucking play. You cannot be in this village when this attack happens. Like, Raphael and his connection to that kid, tears just streaming down my eyes when this little fucking kid, and he is the youngest child that we have ever seen interact with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles up to this point in the live action adaptations.
We should not go too far without talking about how we meet Yoshi, which is when the Turtles first show up, Michelangelo gets separated from the group, right? And he is taken to this village, and they have him, a prisoner, but he's in a room full of food. Like he's in a room that has a roof over his head, and there's all sorts of food around. And so like he's in this weird kind of like, they're holding me hostage, but I don't really have anywhere to go type place. And then the other 3 are trying to find him, right? Well, by the time they do locate him at this village, the village is now under attack. So the 3 of them save the village, and then Mikey, who has been let out in the middle of this attack, then saves a young child from a burning building, and that is young Yoshi. So like there is just this whole like connection now to this village that they've created. And like you talk about tears streaming down your face at that moment with Raph. I mean, like when they bring Yoshi out of that building, and first of all, Mikey saving him is an awesome moment, and then they dig into that moment, because then they're like, oh no, he's not breathing, and then Leo has to perform CPR on him, which is wild.
Leo has to perform CPR
because it's not like these masks have lips.
Leo has to perform CPR, but the grandfather, like the elder of the village, is like, no, stay away from him. And then he's like, he's casting an evil spell, and April's gonna be like, calm the fuck down. He's saving his life. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Like that whole sequence too, where like they all kind of like it's such a throwaway moment in the moment, which is a crazy thing to say of Michelangelo, the funny one, risks his life to save a child. Then Leonardo, the leader. So not like it's not Donatello who's doing the like borderline medical thing. It's Leonardo who's able to perform the life-saving CPR on the child. Mm-hmm. And then Raph and his whole connection to this kid who is like full of anger, like rightfully so at the Daimo, because he just sent people to murder the village and it almost killed him. And then Raph acknowledging that anger and trying to avoid this kid growing up to be him is just like, holy fuck. Of course, the three of them who have just made these connections to this village at the end would be like, well, why would we want to leave this? Why would we want to leave this place where, like, we don't have to wear masks and we can just be ourselves and people like us for that? Like, that is so character development, but in the glass of water that is in this movie, it is a drop that they do not care about at all.
Yeah, no, because then we learned that Yoshi's been lying the whole time because they have the scepter.
But Yoshi has been lying for his grandfather. Like, there's some real bad vibes in here. And then Michelangelo, sorry, I said they were bad vibes. Like, you are such a child, and I love it. I love how childish you act. Like, and even then, like, his infatuation with Mitsu, is like comes from nowhere. But then think about when you were like 15 and how you could develop a crush on some girl because, like, oh my gosh, she's wearing my favorite color shirt today.
Right, but like they know about Mitsu before they even get there because they learn from Kenshin that has showed up that like, I need to get back. There's this woman Mitsu that I love, and also all this other shit going on with my family. So like Mitsu is not like an unknown entity to them. So when he meets her, and she then says, oh, you know Kenshin. Oh, my Kenshin. I love Kenshin. I am thinking about him all the time. I come up to the top of this mountain to wistfully stare out into the distance and think about Kenshin. And he's just like, yeah, but like, I'm here though. And it's like, okay, calm down.
It's kind of toddler syndrome too, where like Mitsu has value because of the value that Kenshin has assigned to her. So then, like, that, I think, is also playing into Michelangelo's attraction to her, is the fact that, oh, well, he likes her, so she must be worth loving, because someone else already does. Like, that weird thing, like, that old TV trope of the girl is not interested in the male character until... Funny I mentioned TV tropes, actually, because one of the people that this movie always makes me think of from my past, that's exactly how he started dating the girl that he liked. Was he started to date another girl, and then that girl that he had pined over for years was like, oh, I should date him, because this other girl is showing an interest in him. Like, it is so high school, that whole thing. I'm so happy we talked through it, because another thing that really bothered me is, like, why is Michelangelo fucking in love with her? She hasn't done anything, really, to, like, make him think that she might have feelings for him, except for be with another guy. But, like, oh, that's why she has value to his warped teenage sensibilities.
Yeah, but then it escalates to a point where he literally is saying, I'm going to stay behind and doom another man to live at a wrong part of history, all for my love for this woman that is doomed to fall apart the second Kenshin shows back up anyway.
I bet that once she sees Kenshin and me, I will obviously be her favorite. I will be the one she chooses. No, probably not, Michelangelo. Their marriage is also what will end the fight.
We're led to believe, at least, that the two of them getting married is going to resolve all these issues.
Yeah, like, it's... Oh, man. But then, like, one step beyond in terms of insanity, the guy that replaced Michelangelo is the one who most adamantly does not want to go back to Japan. Like, that just muddies the water. Which, they don't fall into mud, right? After they leave the sewer. That's poop. Oh,
they definitely. There's a few different moments where they end up in gunk in this movie, or gunk is on screen in this movie, and I would say the majority of the time it's safe to assume that it's just human feces. Yeah. There's just like there's that moment where that same hole that you're talking about that they land in when they fall out of from the prison. We watch later in the movie the prison guard throw a slop bucket down that hole. And there's no way that hole is not just a toilet, that dude just landed down there. And like weirdly, he throws it down there because they're pretending that they're they're pretending that they're cats.
No, he throws it down there and then he hears the cats.
No, 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 no. The cat happens first, and he throws it down there and laughs because he thinks it
Oh, because
landed
he
on the
thinks he
cat.
dumped it on the
It
cat.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like a joke in the moment that this dude thinks he just covered a cat in human feces. That is the joke.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
Feces cat. No, no, that's not funny.
But
Feces
there's like a
cat, though.
whole then they open the grate and there's more than enough time. There's always enough time in this movie for somebody to make a quip. Specifically Michelangelo, right? Even when they like touch the scepter before they actually get like traveled back, they're at least around long enough for Michelangelo to make a quip about like everybody make sure your trays are in the upright position. Boom, they go back in time, and it's just like why was there time for that? It would have been funnier if he was cut off halfway through, right? But then in this moment with the fucking cat bucket, like even then they throw open the grate. This guy must clearly see the faces of four turtles staring back at him, and there's more than enough time for Mikey to make a quip before they then pull him in and beat him up. Like, why doesn't he just go, holy shit, the turtles are here, and slam that thing down and run?
Why doesn't he go, Kappa? Like everybody else in this fucking
Right.
movie. Like, why is he the one guy who's like, I'm down with Kappa? If you're down with
It's
Kappa,
like,
then
holy
you're
shit,
down with
Kappa,
me.
I'm
Kappa.
gonna see where this goes.
I'm gonna try to drink the water from their carapace bowls. Okay, I'm gonna give them cucumbers. They love cucumbers. These are all real facts from Eric Carl's Dragons about the Kappa, which I get to talk about Eric Carl. Rest in peace, Eric Carl, by the way. That was a hard day for me, but I got to meet Eric Carl because I know Peter Laird. Like, that was a cool thing that happened in my life. And it was one of those moments where Peter Laird was like, "Oh, hey, Devin, good to see you. Come over. I want you to meet Kathy." No, Kathy's Jim's wife. "I want you to meet my wife and my daughter, Emily." Like, oh my God, Peter Laird just recognized me. Like, that was the moment. And Eric Carl was there. And then I got to talk to Eric Carl, who was so old at the time. Like, it was cool to get to meet him. I'm sorry to talk about it, but I think about the Turtles and I think about just how much they've given back to my life, Sejin. And it's great. Like, movies like this. I saw this movie in the theater. This is the first Ninja Turtles movie that I saw in the theater. And my mother took me out of school early to go to the first showing on the Friday that it came out. And it is a point of contention in this house because a NASA scientist was visiting the Catholic school I attended in first grade and was showing us a slideshow. And because of that, the speaker was shut off in the room, so they couldn't get a hold of me to be like, "Your mother is here to pick you up." And it was a total surprise that she was doing it. I had no idea she was going to take me out of school, first grade, to go see the Ninja Turtles 3 movie. And then it ended up being a nun had to come and bang on the door, which like freaked out the scientist and all the kids, because he's talking about, "Look at this, the Klingons are behind us." This is the weirdest memory, Sejin. Thank you so much for sitting there in stunned silence as I tell it.
Dream to me. Honestly, it makes about as much sense as the plot of this movie.
But it happened. It happened real. So then they're like, Devin needs to come. His mom is here. So I'm thinking that it's a problem. And she's like, "What? They've been calling you for?" I'm like, "Sorry, Ma. I was on the Starship Enterprise and I had to, like take an emergency pod to get out of there." And she's like, "Oh, do you not want to go see Ninja Turtles?" And I'm like, "No. Where did you get that from? I'm just telling you why it took so long for me to get to the car." And we talked about it tonight, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, you were upset that I took you away from the NASA astronaut." And I'm like, "He was just a scientist. He never went to space, Ma." But she's like, "No, I don't remember that." And I'm like, "You remember." And so then we saw it, and then we saw it 2 more times that weekend. This is the one that started me going to see the Ninja Turtles movies multiple times in theaters, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, and I loved it. S7, "My horse doesn't even have a head." I thought that was so freaking funny. I talked about Ashton, my friend in Leominster at the time. I learned something about him because we went to go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 together. He was so frightened by the Witches trailer that his mom had to take him out into lobby during the trailers.
Oh.
And that, so like, we'll be right back. Ashton is frightened by the trailers.
He's afraid of the trailers. Oh,
And
man.
we'll be back.
That shit can mess you up, but if there's going to be a movie that's going to scare the shit out of you that much, The Witch is a fair one.
The
for
Witch
that
is definitely like, and we're talking the
especially
original
trailer form, because like it's so out of context.
Yeah, like you definitely see the Grand High Witch in that, and also a bunch of them like they see Jin's Gambit in that trailer with witches turning into mice from the soup at the end. So like, yeah, no, I got it, but you need to imagine being a 7-year-old and hearing he's afraid of the trailers, and like, is that a thing? And you also have to like imagine at friggin', I think it was Hook was the first one that we trailer checked as a family. And then, so trailers were like such a big part of my family's connection to the movies. Because the reason we got to go see movies was as trailer checkers, we got free tickets to modify. Did you ever do a trailer check with me? I feel like we had to have at some point.
I don't think I did.
The last one that I did was Australia. Did you know that Australia has the sequel TV series on Hulu?
Really?
Yeah.
Wild.
Nicole Kidman, Hugh
I can
Jackman.
kind of actually see that, because like you're talking about like the big epic historical one with Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman and stuff in it, right?
And both of them are in the Hulu 6-episode follow-up series that like I saw it and I'm like, isn't that the name of the ranch from Australia? And then I look and I go,
oh, it's like New Zealand. Like what does Australia 2 look like?
I'm just like, oh, okay, it's because it's a sequel series to Australia. And they got the characters back. And my connection to that movie is the last movie that I ever trailer checked. And we watched an hour of Australia.
Did they finally tie it into Crocodile Dundee? Because that was really my biggest complaint with the movie.
I don't know. I think Paul Hogan's dead, isn't he? But what, Danny McBride is taking up the reins as Crocodile Dundee Jr.? I don't know.
We used to sell beer, if I remember correctly, or whatever the hell that ad campaign was.
I think it was an ad campaign for Australia.
Was it just a campaign for Australia? Yeah.
Not the movie, the place. Yeah, it was just wild that sorry, but like trailers were such a big part, and then Australia was the last one, and I went with some friends, and then they were like, we're not feeling this. I mean, we didn't pay for the like, there's 2 hours left, we're gonna go. So we left an hour into Australia. And I know that this is all like weird off it, but like it was weird that like Ashton has to go into the lobby for the trailer.
Well, especially at that age, because at 7, anything that is out of your norm is suddenly like the weirdest thing about that person, and it's all you remember about that person for the rest of time, right? Like the ways in which you form opinions about a person based on them doing one thing out of step with what you consider to be normal is fucking nuts. Especially because your concept of normal is probably not normal either, kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like 30 years later, vivid memory.
Yeah,
like,
that's who that kid is now. That kid's the kid that can't watch trailers.
And we saw some other movie, and he had gotten a big hat, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just put the brim down over my eyes so I can't see it." And then, like after one trailer, he's like, "I gotta go to the lobby." It's still freaking me out hearing them, and I'm like, I wonder what happened to him. I couldn't tell you his last name right now. I bet my mother would know because she, I think, taught him briefly while she was a teacher.
I won't name the kid in my life that I've got this, like, you're telling this story, and I vividly have this thought in my head about how there was a kid that I was close with growing up, that he was the one that would show me R-rated movies, right? Everybody has that friend that like their parents seem to be a little bit more loose, so at least go to bed earlier.
You're probably that friend to everybody else.
Right. But like you have that one household where things are a little bit easier, so like that's the house that everybody goes to watch, American Pie or whatever, right? So this is this kid in my life, and we were younger, so like he'd shown me like Terminator and Terminator 2, The Thing, like stuff like that, and then we watched Child's Play one day, but noticeably this one time it was at my house and it was Halloween, and we watched it like on TV because my parents sure as hell didn't rent Child's Play for us, right? Like, so we watched Child's Play
probably on the USA Network because they showed Child's Play all the time.
I got in this. Essentially I got in trouble. I don't like, my parents were very good about knowing when to quote unquote scold me, like especially like in front of other parents, to be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, and getting caught was essentially always like the undertone to that. So like they definitely gave me the talking to that was requested by this kid's parents, but this kid's parents like called my mom up the next day and were like, he slept with a knife next to his bed last night. What did you let him do? And my mom's like, I don't know what they did yesterday. I like they were hanging out in the house. They were playing video games for all I know. And they asked, and so she asked me, and I said, "Oh, well, we were watching a scary movie." I like she told me what had happened, and I was like, "It must have been because we watched a scary movie." And she's like, "Oh, well, they watched a scary movie." And his parents were pissed. And I think my mom knew in the back of her mind, you're the one that lets my kids see the movies with boobs in them. Like you don't get to tell me like, that
you don't have the moral high ground here,
right?
Janice. You.
But I remember that moment, like, and that became a definitive thing about that kid for the rest of the time that I knew him. Is he's the kid that got so scared from Child's Play that he slept with a knife next to his bed.
Oh man, I'm so glad my mom didn't call you after we watched Korgoth the Barbarian at your house. You don't want to know what I was sleeping with next to my bed after that. No, we were adults, so that wouldn't have happened. But it was fun to be part of it.
But you know, then like you look at movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, right? And my parents, this movie was more offensive to my parents watching as much as I did than most other movies, right? Like they definitely, I had a family member give me Ace Ventura when it first came out on VHS for a birthday, and they definitely took that away from me. Like they definitely had their lines. Because I was like 10 when that movie came out on VHS, right? So they were like, no, you can get this in 3 more years, but not today. But this movie, we rented this movie all the time because our major video, which became Blockbuster, they didn't have 1 and 2. They just had 3, and they had like 3 copies of it. So like when we would go and we were in a Ninja Turtles mood, this is the one that we would rent. And like me and my brother, like I guess I can't speak for Zach. I don't know what his critical quality was like back then. But to me, they were the same fucking movie. I got to see the Turtles. I didn't like I was not more offended that it was the third one and not the first. Like that just didn't clock for me. So we rented this movie a lot. So I watched this movie all the time when I was a kid, and my parents were just like miserable. Like they wouldn't watch it with us. They never. I don't think they ever watched it all the way through. But this was a stupid movie and therefore offensive in our house, right? And that was much worse than having a movie like oh, they watched Titanic without telling us, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, my mother definitely, she said like it's a stupid movie, but you like it, so I will take you to go see it. She fully like wore on like is a stupid movie, and I think part of that comes from the fact that like she saw the first one. I watched the first one all the time because I owned it. I got it for Christmas, and I watched it all the time. So then seeing this one, yeah, stupid. Like, the humor is somehow more juvenile than the first or even the second. Because the humor in the second one is, like, kid humor. It's not like the juvenile swing, because April just showed off more skin from her legs.
No, the humor in the first one is like they take salami and beat a guy with salami, and that's like
that's the
silly.
Second one. That's the second one.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You said the first
humor in the
one,
second
though.
one.
Yeah.
Sorry, the humor in the second one is like they beat a guy with salami. The humor in this one is they make dick jokes.
Yeah,
2 very different types of comedy.
And the first one, the humor is like puns and references, like "you dirty rat." I must be Splinter's favorite. Like, that's good comedy. The whole turtle wax joke.
That is solid
funny.
comedy. I will say that's solid comedy. Whether or not it's good is up to you. But, you know.
Yeah, all comedy is subjective. It's solid.
I've been in some
solid
shithouses before, too. But that doesn't make them any better than.
Okay. So it's time for Soundtrack Corner. And at the dollar store, I found Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 soundtrack. And I love the soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Now, you don't mean the orchestration, right?
No, I mean the soundtrack, not the score.
Yeah.
And this movie started watching it for the first time in, God, at least 10 years. The last time I remember watching this film was 2004. We did a night where we watched all 3 of them. It was me and the Daily Boys and one of their girlfriends at the time. And that we sat and we watched it. And my grandmother came over to deliver pizza to us because our parents were away. That's why we were able to do it. And she did not know that there were going to be people over. She was like surprising us with pizza. So the older Daily brother, and it was his girlfriend at the time, hid on the couch under a blanket. And the other one just hid in the bathroom. And then, like, she found out that they were there, and she got so mad at us, but she got more mad at us that we didn't tell her because she would have bought more pizza. It was a weird moment. And she still had brought, like, 2 rectangular pies to the house for just Dale and I. Like, there's plenty of food for everybody here. Thank you, though. Like, I remember that's vivid. And the other thing about it is, in 2004, when we competed in the state drama festival with Jung Gal Book, a gritty urban modernization of the Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, the final song on that soundtrack, chosen by our director, was Tarzan Boy by Baltimora. And the younger Daly ended up coming in to do the sound stuff because the first person who you've been on a podcast with, we don't talk about his name anymore, he chose to go on the band trip rather than the drama trip, so I replaced it with the younger Daly brother. And he's like, isn't this the song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, and honestly, that's not a crazy thing to say. It is played for 2 seconds in, like, a final scene of the movie that watching it, I'm like, when do they go to the bar? I remember that being a big deal in this movie. Casey at the bar with all the warriors.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's like the very end of the movie for 2 seconds.
No, that kid owned the soundtrack. That's what happened. That kid owned that soundtrack.
Yeah, or he watched the credits all the way to the end every time, because the first credit song is Technotronic, Rolling Under the Melody, Rocking Over the Beat is the name of the song, with Kid Yo.
Was this kid named Evan Decker? No? Then
No.
he didn't do that part.
No.
He owned the soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on in the credits, they play the full Tarzan Boy. But then after that, like, it was when I finally got the CD player in the Saturn, I'm like, I want to collect CDs. And the best way to collect CDs, I've told this story before, is movie soundtracks. So I had Top Gun, I had Footloose, and my mother at the dollar store found the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 soundtrack. It had to have been like 2005 or 2006 that it was $1 at the Dollar Tree on Tioga Avenue. And she gave it to me, and I'm like, I don't really like this movie. I don't really remember this movie, but I'll, like, roll it. It is, like, the best soundtrack. And one of the reasons is, in addition to all the songs that are featured in this, so the ZZ Top, Can't Stop Rockin', the Barrio Boys cover of Conga, Tarzan Boy by Baltimora, Rockin' Over the Beat by Technotronic with Kid Yo, both the original version off of the Technotronic album and the remix that they created specifically for this film. Like, that's only 6 songs. There are 10 songs in it. The other songs are the Partners in Crime TURTLE Power. It is Hamato Yoshi's theme when Splinter is telling the story of the boys to April from the first movie. Like, it's all these other great things to flesh out the admittedly weak soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Famously the only one in the original trilogy that does not have an original song written for it. Where, like, the first movie had 2, 9.95 and frickin' TURTLE Power, and then the Ninja Rap by Vanilla Ice in the second one. So sorry. So
no, they're clearly, like, there's a lot going on in this movie to kind of drive down the budget.
Yeah.
Right? Because the other thing is that those first 2 movies were expensive. I think a large part of the reason why we don't see Henson involved, the Henson Company involved in the third movie, comes from, some of it comes from critical reception, some of it comes from the issues with violence and stuff like that. But I bet you that there was an executive or two that were more than happy to say, yeah, we don't need to go with them this time. Let's go with somebody that's maybe a little cheaper than that, huh?
Yeah. Also the fact that Henson said he wouldn't work with them again.
Right, like I said, there's definitely other elements to this, but on the money side of things, I don't think they were sweating. When Henson said, I don't want to be involved anymore, I don't think anybody that had their hands on the pocketbook were like, oh no, please don't go.
Oh no, don't do that. Yeah, no.
See, I thought you were gonna gush a little bit about the John Duprez score, because as I've done in the last 2 episodes of this, like, I will talk about how fucking phenomenal that is. Yeah. And by the way, no longer on Spotify. All 3 were on Spotify for a period, and I no longer can find full ones on there, but that sucks. But anybody that's interested, like, keep an eye out because what company is it? Is it? I think the name of them is Waxwork.
That
Yes,
sounds right. Yeah.
Waxwork Records has been putting out prints of the scores, and they're fucking amazing packages. Like, they're gorgeous. It looks like right now the only one available is two, which is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, these were the ones that were up on Spotify. These recordings, and I'm a little upset that I can't seem to find them anymore. So if anybody can find them, please tell me because the orchestration for all three of these movies is so much fun.
Yeah. It is some of the best. That's one of the reasons why the fact that Yoshi's theme is featured, John Duprez and Ocean Music, it's the best part of that CD. Also, it's Ya Kid K, not Kid Yo. I'm sorry about that. I messed that up. But it's awesome. But also, as we became friends with Steve Levine, the guy who ran Shellback Artworks, Dale and I would take these weekend trips up to Maine to hang out at his shop and just like goof around and have a good time. And we would spin this soundtrack specifically just because of how varied the music is. So like the music of this movie is what I really connect with in terms of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 experience. And it's because it's the only one I had on my freaking iPod. I was still rocking an iPod at the time. God,
Awesome.
How much the world has changed. All right, we're going a little long, but I want to tie this whole trilogy together with an insane thing that came to my mind this morning in the shower.
Okay, here we go. Shower thoughts with Devin. Let's do this. It's a good way to send this off, I think. This is a good way to wrap things up.
Raphael's arc in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trilogy. This is with the concession that all three of these movies exist in the same universe, which I believe we made a pretty strong argument cannot be the case based on the second movie. But regardless, let's put them all into a blender. It is one cohesive cinematic universe.
The continuity's not there, but the canon sure is.
Yeah, exactly. And they even connect to TMNT, which we're not going to talk about until 2036. Sorry, we've established that it's 30 years. We really want to talk about TMNT. Oh, God, I love that movie. But let's...
Yeah, and God forbid we break a rule we created for ourselves, but that's something for me and Deb to talk about off mic.
Yeah, exactly. Ninja Christmas is about 30 years ago, Sajin. But yes, so coming to it. The character of Raphael throughout the three movies represents the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. He is the past to Casey Jones in the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, because he sees in Casey what will happen if his anger is untouched and is able to bring Casey back from the brink of anger being his only defining characteristic. In Secret of the Ooze, he is the ghost of Christmas present because he is face to face with somebody who is in his peer group in the character of Kino, watching as anger almost takes over and he throws his life away in pursuit of trying to be a hero like the Turtles. In Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, he becomes the ghost of Christmas future to young Yoshi, a boy who is understandably angry after the actions of the Daimyo almost lead to his death, and he tries to take that anger and focus it so that child does not grow up to be Raphael. This is my argument. Please critique as necessary.
Okay, first of all, I love this, but I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip this. He is clearly the Ebenezer Scrooge of this series. And what you're saying is that Yoshi represents his past, Kino represents his present, and Casey represents his future. He just sees them in the opposite order. But
yeah.
It is in seeing his possible future in the loner that is Casey. So much of a loner that he doesn't even stick around for the second movie, right? Like Casey just cannot mesh with this group. We are led to believe, at least not in any meaningful way, which is why they straight up even leave him behind when they all go to Japan too, right? Yeah. Like, he's just not part of the group, and that is what he could become. Kino represents this thing that he is currently. They are pretty much on the same page. They both are faced with a lot of similar choices, and it is about how they both handle that. And then Yoshi, he sees is this ability to correct things before they ever get that far. I think there is something to be said here about that. I just think that it's interesting to me that you want to look at him, the character that is constant as the ghost, and not that he is then being visited by these ghosts, which I think would be the easier leap to make.
Well, but then to those, it's weird. It's all about perception. To him, yes, he sees the ghost of his future, the ghost of his present, the ghost of his past. But to those characters, as this like demonic other figure, that's what it represents. Casey is faced with his past. Yeah. So it's like this weird thing. Either way, Splinter is Marley. There's the end of it. But it was just this thing I'm thinking of, like, there's this real great narrative for Raphael through the 3 films, watching him learn how to control his anger. And honestly, there's the biggest triumph of this trilogy, is that there is a lovely arc for that character through them. And then the other characters all have pretty compelling, like, single movie arcs. Like, Leo's a whole gripe with, like, being a leader in the first movie, and like when he's failed because one of the people he's meant to lead is as damaged as Raphael is in that attack by the foot. Donatello's whole crisis of self being the driving force of the second film, and then Michelangelo's sense of like, I don't really fit in anywhere. Like, cause that's part, like, his disappointment at, this is what April got me, a fucking lamp? Like, that's who I am? I'm the lamp guy? Mike loves lamp? Like, what the fuck is that? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a growing up story, right? Like, this idea that I think part of the reason why he feels so attached to staying in the past is not just because of the girl that he's into or the fact that he feels like he fits in, but he also feels like he's become a better being. I was about to say person. Turtle. He feels like he's become a better turtle. Like he's become a better self, in that he's become a better Michelangelo by the end of that. And he doesn't want to leave a place that has finally made him feel like he is growing up. And what he doesn't understand is that you're going to grow up no matter where you are, kid. But he's just a kid, right? So he doesn't get that. What he knows is this is a place that has forced me to become a better person. So why would I leave this place when I am at my best self here? And that's awesome. The movie doesn't ever get this deep into it. Like, let's not sit here and act like this movie really gives it its true due. But, like, there is a way to view it that way for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's there. It's definitely there. But just never like.
But like the first movie leans in to Leo learning to be a leader. Like that is just, it is so heavily influential to the plot of that movie and to what you see him go through. That is none of that you've seen here with Mikey.
Right.
While we can see that as adults and we can recognize, like, as the story is progressing, that's what's there. This movie never gives the emotional weight to that exact thought that we see given 1,000 times in the first movie to Leo's exact kind of like play.
And even to lesser extent to Donatello in the second movie.
Well, you notice I didn't even mention the second movie because like I really love Donnie's stories. There's so many good ones throughout all of the history of Turtles where like there's a lot of stuff about Donnie being the one wanting them to become human in a lot of stories and things like that. Donnie being the one that really wants to use science to kind of remove, like he thinks that by altering himself or changing things, using science in order to become something else is going to somehow save them from this life of like, you know, solitude and loneliness. And like, it never works out. Those are always really sad. They're very, and in that way, they're really compelling stories to me. So like, I do love Donnie stories, but like, I don't even, the second movie has a lot of issues. I'll just leave it at that.
And if you want to hear them, you can go back and listen to I Made Another Funny, episode 258. It's been 104 episodes since we've done one of these, which is just crazy in like just the scope of everything. I don't know. I
still cannot believe we didn't do one on the TV show. I like in my head, I must have dreamed I was recording like a commentary or something.
Well,
about
we
that
wouldn't.
episode.
I mean, we wouldn't because until 98, I think is when Next Mutation happened. We may have touched briefly on the character, but. No, I don't. We've never talked about the Next Mutation, which I guess just like tail end of it. There was going to be a fourth movie that was them further mutating and the introduction of the fifth turtle, Kirby, named after the greatest artist of all, Jack Kirby. Take that, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael. The Renaissance is over. But this film was a failure in a lot of ways.
Well, again, it's an interesting thing about what we consider a failure and what we don't, because it did make twice its budget back, didn't it?
Yeah, but it didn't make, I mean, there was a time where the first Ninja Turtles film was the highest grossing independent film. And that went until like 2018, right? Like the scope of the 1990s Ninja Turtles movie being the highest earning independent film ever.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if you did like inflation math, if actually it might still be in some weird way or something. I don't know. But yes, it held that crown for a long time. It did.
And it helped, as much as I talk about comic book adaptations, Sally Menken, because of her work on that, hooks up with Quentin Tarantino, and she did all of the editing for his films. So that's a hugely influential film, and it beseeches it leads to this film, and it leads to Turtles being what Turtles are, and it's one of the reasons why we talk about them at Christmas. So I mean, this episode was coming. I'm sorry that we did 3 ninjas last year, but there was no Turtle movie in 1992. And on some level, also thank goodness for that. Thank goodness they at least took a year to put this one together. Yeah. As opposed to the rush job that is Secrets of the Ooze 2. Oof. Turtles 2, Secrets of the Ooze. But again, I mean, the biggest issue that I see with 2 and 3 is just they didn't let them go hard enough into what made the Ninja Turtles on the page the Ninja Turtles.
They learned all the wrong. They learned all the wrong lessons from the first movie. Like we've talked about this in the second one too. But the stuff that they were like, well, we need to get more of that, and we're gonna cut back on some of that. And it's like you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater in a lot of places, and then on top of that, you're highlighting all of the dumb stuff. Like the stuff that we kind of like rolled our eyes at but look past in the first movie is now like the highlight of 2 and 3. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It is. And like this Walker could be a compelling villain. There's no room for growth to either of the villains in this film. They're just kind of, one's evil for money and one's not even really evil. He's just trying to understand his son. Like he's pretty
evil. We understand that he has been like attacking villages and demanding and he has this personal guard and stuff. He's not great. There is a rebellion that exists already, right? That he is trying to crush. Yeah. So like we understand that he is also not a good guy. But I think to your point, like the fact that we don't really have much more on him other than what he has done before we get there. Like we understand that he was doing terrible things, but everything we see in the movie just revolves around him just trying to keep this intruder out in Walker and try and find his son who has disappeared, right? And so it's like it's almost understandable the way that he behaves within the movie until you remember that we are given a bunch of exposition about how like he is such a ruthless leader in this area that there is a straight up rebellion growing against him already that they show up and join.
Right. But then like that's weirdly undercut by like it just seems like he doesn't want his kid to marry this girl from the wrong side of the tracks. Yeah, it's a sort of compelling until it's not. I don't know.
I think that's a great way to explain all of the problems with this movie. Yeah. Everything in this movie is like super compelling when you first hear it, but then you see the execution and you're just like, oh, that didn't really work.
That didn't really go anywhere. All right. I could literally talk about this movie for another hour and 52 minutes, but I feel like we should probably wrap this one down. If you're listening on Christmas, you probably got family that you got to deal with. Your turkey's probably already done, or your ham, or your goose. Sejan, do you have anything else to add to this final installment in Ninja Christmas 2023?
Man, go watch this movie. Like we always try and end these things with kind of like a final verdict or at least an understanding of like what we recommend. Like this is still a fun movie, but yeah, it's not on the same level as watching the first one. I could never act like it is, but it is definitely still a fun watch.
Yeah. I would go 1, 3, 2 if I were ranking them without and ranking as that. I mean, if I were including TMNT, it would be 1, 4, 3, 2. Because the first movie is just basically untouchable, and I will eventually talk about TMNT, and we'll elaborate on that. But to also elucidate and strengthen Sejan's argument, if you do want to watch this film, it's on Paramount Plus, and if you get Paramount Plus for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, you will get the added bonus of 1 and 2 and Mutant Mayhem. Plus, you'll be able to watch the Frasier reboot, which had an amazing Christmas episode.
Oh, I thought you were going to say had an amazing Turtles episode.
No, I wish.
The Turtles crossover with Frasier.
Oh, God, I'd love that. Michelangelo, what have you done?
Named after the greats, how could I despise you?
Oh, Raphael, I've lost a sigh or two myself.
I think I really need a Ninja Turtles where he plays Splinter, where we get Kelsey Grammer as Splinter.
God, that would
I
be
named
incredible.
you after my 4 favorite Titus. And you after my favorite Nintendo character.
Oh no, the roast! Niles! Who the hell is this Niles? He's Walker's major domo. Now it's just turned into me doing my Frasier Crane impression, which is Kelsey Grammer doing it. Whatever, I can't do it anymore. Thank you so much for listening to the Say Report. Again, we're not sponsored by Paramount Plus. I'm just showing you all of the fun things you can watch if you get a month-long subscription as the way to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. But we're probably also going to do an episode on Frasier Boston and the glorious 10 episodes that was there. So it's a way to prepare for future episodes of the Say Report.
I'm Elvis in Blue Hawaii. I saw it on the cable.
Oh, that's the last thing. I saw it on the cable is what they must think is the funniest fucking joke from this movie. And the reason I say that is that in the comic adaptation, they say, so time travel, that's completely possible. And Michelangelo goes, yeah, Michael J. Fox told us that. And then Splinter goes, actually, it was the gentleman with the white hair. I should know. I saw it on cable. And it's just like, what the fuck was that?
Is that in the same adaptation where we then get the time...
No, the
Lord
time mistress.
there?
No, Renette in 46 and 47. Her introduction is, well, I just dealt with that Sarah Connor issue over in L.A. And then when she leaves, she's like, I got to go help the kid with the DeLorean. You need to understand, the original Ninja Turtles comics are just satirizing pop culture.
I get that. It's just,
they
it's
can.
amazing. I love these kinds of bits because
Yeah.
because this exists in a world where both the movie Back to the Future exists, but also apparently Back to the Future actually happened.
Well, I mean, she's a timstress. Renette, God, I love the character of Renette. And Savante Romero got a character just in time for Christmas. I'm hoping that's under the tree on Christmas morning. I just gotta cross my fingers and say it. But she is this character who's like, she's supposed to be like this ditzy Valley Girl type character, but she has the ability to go through space, time, and dimensions. Like, that's the best part about that character, is when the multiverse of Turtles was introduced. Oh my God, we should do Turtles Forever. We're gonna do Turtles Forever. That's a promise. That's a great freaking movie. When it was confirmed that there is a multiverse of Turtles, she got upgraded from being a timstress to being like multiversal. So like, there are times where she's like, have we met yet? Or is that a different dimension? So a step further, it's kind of like sowing these seeds where like they get to watch Back to the Future and reference Back to the Future, and she gets to go to that world and make sure that the lightning strikes the clock tower.
Red.
Yeah, it's just there's a reason why I connected to the Ninja Turtles, and it's not just because of the pizza and the 87 cartoon. It is so much of how I see the world was represented in these comics when I found them. So, that's that. All right, so anything else, Sejin, before we give these people the contact list and let them go be with their families for the rest of Christmas?
Nah, you can clearly see I was avoiding it, but go ahead.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Ninja Christmas 2023. Surf Ninjas was part 1. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 was part 2. Next year, we're doing 3 ninjas again. We're going to kick back with the 3 ninjas. But that's not for another 52 weeks or so. So thank you so much for joining us for this whole 2023 experiment that was the Say Report. Next week, we're going to be covering Paycheck, the Ben Affleck film, as we move into the new year. So if you want to be prepared for the next episode, make sure you watch Paycheck. Is the 3rd Ben Affleck movie from 2003. That was his year of Jim Carrey. So that'll be there. And even though we're doing these kind of like out of space and time so that we can enjoy the holiday season, we are still checking the emails. So if you want to get in touch with us or you have any comments about this, you want to share your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 memories, we can still be found. Just send the emails to thesayreport@gmail.com. Again, that's thesayreport@gmail.com. We're check that email every day. And if it's specifically a comment meant for myself or Sejin, just make sure you put our name in the subject line and it will be distributed accordingly. With that said, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good slice of pizza. I made another funny. Have a happy holiday, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.